Welcome to the internet, my friend. How can I help you?
We're online.
All systems go!
And in your face. You are listening to the golden microphones of the IMC radio. News, opinions, and your calls.
Yes, we are.
You gotta see that big picture.
Sometimes if you stop the machine, then you realize, whoa.
You have to have some foresight and think about what kind of an effect is that going to have on air travel.
How important is aviation to you?
Friday, Sun and Fun. This is episode Delta on Sun and Fun 2016 from the golden microphones of the IMC Club Radio. This is Howie Marlin. And I'm joined this afternoon with an eclectic group of wayfaring gentlemen who have come together to talk about why Sun and Fun is exciting to them, what brought them here. And the beautiful thing about it is that we have someone who I've known a little bit on the outside, Russ Niles from AvWeb, whose job is to report all the groovy stuff that goes on in our industry. And so welcome aboard, Russ. It's good to have you. I'm real good, thanks. And to his left, we have Steve Thorne from Flight Chops. And to take one look at your face, we can understand why you call it that. Nice chops there, dude.
Thank you. How you doing?
And his trusty sidekick, Chris Palmer. How you doing, buddy?
Good to be here. Thank you.
I just want to make everybody perfectly clear. It was Chris who showed up earlier today when, I just wanted to make sure that Steve was going to be here on time.
I think I'm his sidekick, actually.
That's very cool. Hey, Russ, let's start with you. Good to see you again. The last time I saw you, NBAA, I was there with Iowa and making the presentation. We got a little sidetracked by some other interesting competition.
Yeah, you really know how to pick them, Howie.
Well, I had nothing to do with the picking. I was just there for the
I thought
ride.
your presentation was more interesting than William Shatner anyway.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I'm proud to be part of the Institute for Women of Aviation Worldwide. The whole idea is to inspire youngsters to look to aerospace as a career. Science, technology, engineering, math, and I throw the arts in there too. But your job is to look at all these products, people products, hardware, and to basically share the love with the population. From where you sit, now first let me ask you, how long have you been part of the reporting world in aviation?
15 years. I've been working for AvWeb.
Okay, and in the 15 years, and this is putting you on the spot, what's one of the most startling, innovative elements which kind of rattled your...
Startling, innovative elements.
Or an event or something
Well,
in aviation.
Aviation is evolutionary, right? The technology builds on itself. But if you look at the airplanes that are being produced today compared to 15 years ago, it's like your phone, right? It's the difference between the phone that you could get 15 years ago and the phone you can get today. Airplanes today should be safer, they should be more reliable, and they should be easier to fly. But then we've added the human element, and we've disproved that technology can make safe pilots.
And to your left, Radek Vizikowski, my brother at arms here, who I ignored totally in the introduction.
That's okay. I'm used to it.
Well, by now you should. Welcome aboard. It's great to have you here with me. And in response to Russ's statement about technology, we've been talking about this, the problem of looking down when you should be looking out, the innovations, the distractions of systems versus seat of the pants. What's your take on what Russ said?
I think technology was much easier years ago. Even though we didn't have so much information available to us, but still, I always say when I transition back to old-fashioned legacy gauges and I have to fly instrument approach, it takes 5 seconds to set up, and you can safely do that. So definitely technology is good, but only as good as we are able to use it and being proficient in it. A lot of times, like I know your job is to look out there to see what's innovative and report on it and so on. People ask me a lot of times, what's the best system out there on the market? And my answer is always the same, the one that you know best.
Yeah, fair enough.
Hold on. And speaking of ones that you know best, I just want to bounce this over to Steve Thorne. Your programs on flight education, this man has these wonderful videos, instructional videos, and he's sharing the process, what he's going through. And he's very articulate about it. How long have you had your ticket?
I've had a ticket since '96, but I'm a weekend warrior, and I'm always careful to say my stuff is not educational or instructional as much as it's experiential. So I'm always careful to add that disclaimer because I'm not an instructor. I'm just a weekend warrior private pilot trying to stay safe and do what all the weekend warriors do, which is get the rust off and realize we don't fly enough. So from my perspective, I had a period where I wasn't current during the time when iPads became a thing.
Oh, really?
And I came into it in 2010 again, having not been current since 2006. So literally that whole thing happened while I wasn't current. And I came back to it like, wow, this is crazy. This is too easy. But I went and did all the paper stuff again, flight planning with like all my, deviation and working out all my wind drift and all that stuff on paper for my flight planning, just to remind myself how to do it for a couple months when I got recurrent. And then I got ForeFlight going on the iPad, and I was like, I don't think I'm going back to paper, but what does that mean for new people coming in now who have these tools that are going to assume this is how it is or whatever? So I've been trying to wrap my head around how training is going, and I don't know what the answer is there because I feel like, why wouldn't you avail yourself of these amazing tools that are right there, like glass cockpits and iPads and all these really easy to follow things like weight and balance? You can just do it now on the iPad, and you don't have to think about trying to get that graph and read that right with the arm in the moment. So I don't know, what is that doing to new pilots? I don't know.
But you mentioned one thing, if I may jump in here. You said that it's more experience than educational.
For what I'm doing
but
in my videos.
Yes, but experience is educational. That is exactly what IMC Club is all about. We learn from other people's experience. So what you are doing there...
Have you seen my videos?
Russ, have you seen
I know,
videos?
I have to admit I haven't.
Okay, that's cool.
Okay,
but
the beautiful
I
thing
definitely
is,
will have to because what you just said, I think it's very important.
The beautiful thing is that his production, he's from video production, so the quality of his videos are really good. He's showing what he's doing. He's being very articulate with how he's showing what he's doing.
And it usually involves mistakes.
Yes.
Right? So it's like...
And the mistakes are how we learn.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I'm gaining wisdom by watching you mess up.
Sure.
But you mess up in ways that we all can learn. And, the mess-ups aren't that severe.
No.
But they're...
I think at the bottom line, I'm comfortable saying my stuff helps start a conversation that people can finish with their instructor. As long as they don't finish the conversation with my video, then I'm cool. So I just don't have the authority to put my videos out there as educated. That's what I mean. I know what you're saying. Yeah, experience is absolutely the best way to learn. And that's why I think my videos have traction, because I'm putting it out there with kind of unapologetically not being perfect, and it's like, that could have been better, and here's why, and then I'll get my instructor to debrief with me, and we'll do a video where we're like talking about how that could have been better. And so a lot of my stuff is actually training flights, where I'm learning how to fly a warbird or whatever, and trying to figure out energy management of these things, or land when you can't see where you're going and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on there, applying the fundamentals in these different contexts, and you get to see me like learning it and screwing it up.
So there's an interesting book called the Killing Zone. And what they studied in that book was the fact that TAA, or technically advanced aircraft, versus traditional six-pack gauges had no difference in pilot training. That what it actually came down to and how guys got through the process better was through scenario-based training. So technology is everywhere in aviation today. It's in the airplanes, it's in the iPads, and even down the simulation, we see how far Redbird has come with offering simulation as a way to learn. There's virtual reality now. Oculus Rift just came out with a virtual reality headset. You can use it in a flight simulator at home. It's very immersive and real. So technology is everywhere, but at the end of the day, it always goes back to those stick and rudder skills. It'll always go back to that form, regardless of what the technology is, because technology can't do that job for you. And it's even the reason.
That's not true.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Autonomously flown airplanes are being developed now. Diamond has one. Cirrus is getting there.
Russ, put the mic towards your chin.
Okay.
Yep.
So are you saying that one day aircraft will be autonomously flown and no pilots on board?
As of, I believe it was November of last year, they are autonomously
We're there already.
flown.
Yeah, so are you talking about commercial flights, or are you talking about
This
like
is a
military?
a DA-42.
Okay.
The test pilot was hands-off from takeoff to landing.
So do you think that's something that the general public will accept, that there's a computer flying their airplane?
They're already doing it.
I think there are
called
two
systems
issues
management.
here. It's things that are happening because technology is developing, and I think it's inevitable that it's gonna happen. But on the other side, we can argue whether it is good.
Right.
Because my position is that we are losing. It's almost like, going from reading a book, having to, knowing the alphabet, then in your brain processing it, developing that mental picture of what you're reading versus watching a movie. So our brains are relaxing now.
Right.
They don't have to work that much. And if everything is being done for us by a machine, is it good or bad? I mean, I have no answer for it, but what do you think?
And so there are some recent accidents, right, with the Air France accident and the accident in San Francisco with the Korean airline. So there are some accidents where they're actually showing that pilots that are addicted, if you will, to automation, and they don't have those stick and rudder flying skills, or they're not getting back to the basics, are having issues in those situations where they actually just need to fly the airplane. And so even in the airlines right now, there's a movement to get back to manual flying exercises where the airline SOPs and regulations are relaxing to where the pilots are actually allowed to hand fly the airplane up to 20,000 feet in certain cases.
Yeah, certainly not all airlines are
Not all
embracing
airlines.
that.
Nope, definitely not. But a lot of the majors are too.
Talking about technology, I just want to complicate the discussion a little further. We have George By from By Electric just stop by and say hello. And we're talking about technology. We're talking about automation. We're talking about systems and how it was just presented how in the world is the general population going to accept automation to the point where it's an autonomously flown aircraft? Do you think that's actually going to happen? Why don't you grab his?
Well, I think it will happen in stages, of course. And we've seen automation in a lot of our lives, mostly in ground transportation. We've seen media coverage, Tesla and others. And I think the robotics and auto flight control systems will, make their way into aircraft, of course. What we're seeing with the Sunflyer is, we're seeing the iPad, Wi-Fi connectivity, a lot of the multifaceted recording of the aircraft attitude, performance, recording of the students' capabilities, and so forth with the micro camera systems now. The iPad flexibility and Wi-Fi enables both maintenance and instruction interface. A lot of cool things, but auto flight control systems with emergency upset recovery, recovery in an emergency to the nearest suitable airfield, things like that. We're going to see those, I think, much sooner than expected.
Talk a little closer to your chin. And the other thing, your aircraft comes with its own battery charger.
It does. It does. Yeah, and of course, we're setting up, one of the announcements we had here earlier this week was that we're setting up a network of superchargers together with flight schools so that the cross-country and resupply of our aircraft as they are going from location to location are just seamless.
George, have you met Russ?
I don't know. Russ, have we met? Good to see you, man. George, bye.
Russ.
Have you heard of this business?
Oh, of course. One thing I'd like to ask you, George, is yours is a training airplane. It is designed for for flight schools and to be used as a
Absolutely.
primary trainer. What level of automation does it have?
Well, the flight controls and the synthesis, if you will, of the display system and the harmonization with the aircraft, the characteristics of the aircraft are very important as a trainer. And initially in training, of course, it's very important that eye-hand coordination together with radio and interface with technology is part of the training process. The auto flight control system comes more with a pilot-owner version of the airplane, and as we progress from 2-seat to 4-seat and so forth. But it's also a safety feature, probably not on the initial model of the aircraft, but we're working with technology teams that are well aware and well along in the development of auto recovery from upset, and of course the nearest suitable airport location in the event of an emergency and things like that, together with AMSAFE seatbelts and the BRS full aircraft parachute. So as we go forward in the future, automation, technology, together with training are really going to be a part of both this aircraft and we think the total training system, and by that I mean simulation and simulation technologies. We're partnered with Redbird in that element. Very, very important that it all work together in one total training system.
So,
Yeah, go ahead, Russ.
so as we move into this bold new world, it used to be that flight training, especially the gauges, it was all the same for everybody. Everybody had a touchstone on the six-pack, and everybody knew what it was for. And if you flew IFR, you knew what the needles were for, and everything. Are we moving to a system of type ratings for light aircraft because each one is so unique and it behaves in its own way with its own computers and everything?
The layout of the system on the Sunflyer is built with the alignment to the commonality in aircraft. State of charge, for example, is the same as fuel remaining. The RPM, of course, is common to us. Monitoring temperatures, common to us. The way the aircraft is flown, the similarities you'll find are far more there than what you think in terms of how we behave in flying the aircraft. What's also interesting, though, of course, as we ponder what training is for largely today, we are in desperate need, and the forecast is for even a larger need for airline transport pilots. The ATP is kind of a target for those of us interested in commercial airline flying. And there's a forecast demand by Boeing and by Airbus and others for several 100,000 pilots over the next 20 years. Whether or not we're able to revitalize general aviation, we certainly hope so. We hope there's a great deal of new, younger generation pilots joining us here soon. But certainly the demand for professional pilots is great and forecast to significantly increase. So when we think about that, real quick, the progression of flying is not to high performance, high horsepower piston engine airplane, but turbine aircraft and glass. So the training schools are asking us for glass, not for analog. The training schools are looking forward to turbine aircraft, simulators that are simulating business aircraft and transport category aircraft with turbines. And so learning carb heat and prop pitch mixture, etc., manifold pressure is not an emphasis, but rather turbine behaviors.
Okay, but do you think that everybody should learn basics first? I always compare learning to fly to learning to dance. I took some dance classes. I still cannot do it, but my wife forced me to do it on few occasions. But every single time, basic course would start, okay, left foot forward, and we're going to walk in the rhythm of the music.
Absolutely.
If somebody would take me and show me some complicated tango figures there, and say, okay, now you repeat after me, I would have never learned that. So do you think, because technology is good as long as it's working, but at some point, some technology is going to fail. And then if we have pilots who don't know basics, then they get in trouble. And we know those instances that, it is happening.
Don't misunderstand. We absolutely, in fact, if there's an emphasis, it's airmanship. Our pilots today are too auto-flight control and glass-oriented. Their basic airmanship is lacking.
But how do you do that? Because, when I was doing training for primary students, on the very first few lessons, I literally would say, okay, don't worry about the radio. You don't need to know anything about this for now. And let's cover all instruments, literally. You don't need to see what is happening there. You have to get the feel of. So how do you do this if you get in the airplane and you have 2 or 3 computer screens with 15, 25 buttons to push, and you cannot say, forget about it, because you have to learn that part, because otherwise you are not going to go anywhere.
Actually, the aircraft, that was a critique of ours we share with you, going back to the 1990s. Automation actually was a step back in safety, not a step forward. Today, of course, it is becoming much more shall we say, human factor friendly. You don't have to push the button 5 times to change the frequency. It's much more intuitive.
Absolutely. Let me jump in. We've had some technology specialists here in the last few days who have been talking about the innovations, the 2-touch rules and things like that. I'm really interested, Steve, because the aircraft that you've been flying all different types of aircraft. And we talk about seat of the pants and primary training and technology. The cool thing about what you do is you're showing exactly what you're going through.
Right.
Now, we've heard a lot about technology. What's your take on it?
Well, again, the idea that I jumped back into the world where technology became a thing, where I had missed that window where it really started happening, I was not current to catch.
By the way, you're from Vancouver?
I'm from Toronto.
It's from
Toronto.
Toronto.
Other side, but still Canada.
Yes.
So
doesn't quite speak English, so be patient with him.
I've got the accent. Basically, I started with 6-pack. I'm comfortable there. The G1000 scares me. I don't have a lot of time on it. And then I started going into tailwheel like a Super Cub and Stearman. And I love the idea of less and less buttons. And my instructor with the Stearman is like, just fly the airplane. And you don't really have a choice in that case. But I imagine some of these newer airplanes, I'm really curious to see this one. I haven't heard of the Sunflyer, so I'm not in the loop on that one, but I'd like to check it out. But the controls, I imagine what you're trying to say is that you're taking away a lot of the scariness of all those buttons and you're simplifying the interface.
So, absolutely. First of all, just real quick by background, I'm a general aviation pilot first, went into the Air Force, trained fighter pilots, transitioned from analog to digital. I've been in the training business and aircraft development business all my life. So I'm sympathetic to the issues that you're discussing here with auto-flight control and display system complexity. And clearly you need a progression, an appropriate progression of airmanship and technology familiarization over stages, beginning from the beginning and reemphasizing all along the way basic airmanship. To your point earlier, you need, you're well along in your aircraft pilot training experience. The instructor pilot needs to reach up there and turn the dang thing off and say, okay, now fly yourself home, dead reckoning. There's elements of that airmanship training that we've kind of forgotten along the way. We're so focused on auto-flight control systems and pushing the buttons and looking down. I've seen both pilots look down like this while they're trying to enter in a waypoint. And I agree with you.
Oh, please, that would be scary. By the way, you're talking to Radek. You're talking directly to Radek, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it in big transport jets. I've seen it in business aircraft. We have got to get back to airmanship and learning to fly stick and rudder, so to speak.
Now, Russ, I'm really curious about this. I had a conversation yesterday with a technology that's talking about heads-up displays. So now we're taking what we're looking down on our leg for, which the first time I saw somebody staring at an iPad on the leg, I said, that's nuts. That's just nuts. I want at least to have some field of view. Have you heard of anything like that for GA?
Oh, head-up displays for GA have been around for a long time. They've never really gained much traction because to get a really good projection requires some pretty high-tech equipment, and they just don't work that well in the sun and that sort of thing. But having said that, it's about information flow, right?
Right. By the way, the technology they were talking about was better vision. They are overcoming those obstacles. But can you imagine getting the iPad, the bars and whatever, in your view, but yet not obstructing your view?
When you do a scan of regular instruments, you're getting the information that you want. You're picking and choosing it. Electronic displays tend to give it to you all at once, and you have to divide it up in your brain. And we're not very good at that. Human beings are not very good at sorting through that kind of information.
Yeah, you have about a second and a quarter stare before your brain interprets a digital number, as opposed to a sweep where you can kind of see generally where the needles are. So, again, on automation, there's a step forward, sometimes 2 steps backwards, depending on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I can look at analog gauges, and I know exactly where I am. I know my altitude, I know my speed, and I don't have to read those numbers. Same thing with analog watch. From what I'm hearing, military on important missions, they still use analog watches because, you look at it and you know exactly how much time you have left.
The thing that you're pointing out, in steam gauges, the analog, the sweep, you get accustomed to that. It becomes exception analysis. When it isn't where it should be, it gets your attention. And you see, that's different than the digital.
I think the problem is that we are trying to replace one with another. So we're trying to replace analog with technology, when I believe that we should have a structured training that takes people from basic, and then the technology is an advanced course. It's that complicated tango figure I was talking about, but basic again, step has to be first.
Yeah, the basic step has to be first, and we need to come back to basics on a regular frequency because, again, we get familiar with the automation, and all of us kind of get lazy by going through the same process of getting ready for flight and so forth. And habit patterns are formed, and we forget that basic airmanship element again and again. And we all have too many stories that can be told about accidents, controlled flight into terrain, basic things that we just shake our head going, how in the world could they do that? But task saturation, stress, and not being familiar with basic airmanship again and again will get us if we're not well prepared. Let me say one thing else, though, real quick. Electric aircraft, electric propulsion is interesting in the new technology that it enables. It's interesting because there's other things that go with electric propulsion that allows additional advantages that you don't have with conventional propulsion. But one of the things that's so profound is the cost of flying. $1 of electricity is needed to fly for an hour. $1 is needed to fly for an hour.
That is amazing.
It's clean, it's quiet, and it's $1. I'm so excited about technology. I'm excited about new aerodynamics and structures and the material science. I'm excited about the synthesis of training systems and working together to a better outcome, like we're talking about with airmanship and so forth. But see,
there's my deposit.
You just bought 100 hours of flying time right there.
There's my deposit on your plane, baby.
$100 just bought 100 hours of flying time for energy, and that's exciting. I mean, we want to revitalize general aviation. That's our aim. And when you can bring the cost of flying down that dramatically, the world changes. It's not a Tesla with wings. That's a different paradigm. A lot of people like to think, well, you're just building a Tesla with wings, but it doesn't bring with it that premium, that expense. The aircraft itself is less expensive, and the flying time, that's a game changer.
Well, it's technologies like yours and Pipistrel which is going to make a paradigm shift in aviation. This is a great time. I have to do a little interstitial and take a break. Really, George, thank you very much. Wait, before you go, where can people find you on the web?
So sunflyer.com. Sunflyer.com. One word. Sunflyer.com.
Do you have a Facebook page?
We do. Same. Yep.
Pinterest?
Yep.
Awesome.
Keep going. Yes. We're
right,
all there.
baby.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right. My 12-year-old daughter's friends will know where to find you. All right, guys.
All right.
Well, everybody else hang loose. Well, we'll be back in a minute. This is Howie from Sun and Fun 2016. One moment, please.
Welcome to Plane Talk on WIMC Radio. The views and opinions expressed on Plane Talk are of the host, its guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect the views of the IMC Club or IMC Club International.
Brussels National Departure Quebec 0954. Runway 25 right for departure. Taxiway Echo 54.
See, this takes so much energy, guys. All right. JetBlue 1012, Lieutenant November, join Alpha, contact Ronald. Good afternoon. Quick lander, my 3354. Good evening. You guys should come up there one day. You'd enjoy it. You'd enjoy the show.
Excellent. Well, we are back. And it's one of those glorious, beautiful days here in Lakeland Linder Airport. And as the current group exchange business cards, by the way, you're more than welcome to stay if you want to take off, you can. Again, George, thank you very much. Really, I wish you the very best of luck. And thanks for coming by. And you take care of George. We need him to be alive and well so he finishes his mission. So, Steve, you going to stick around? Awesome. So, one of the wonderful things about the IMC Club platform is that we have a very diverse group of folks who take all that stuff off the seat. None of that's going to work here. I have tables behind me. There you go. Have a seat. And the beautiful thing is that we have people of all walks of life and all sorts of involvements. And I have Barbara Ganson, Dr. Barbara Ganson, with me today, who just stepped in as we play musical chairs. When the music stops, you have to have a seat. Here, Barbara, but you can put your hat on. You look wonderful in the hat.
Okay, putting my hat on.
No, you don't. But I think it's very sweet. And we're back again for phase 2 of, what is today, Friday? Holy cow. It's just kind of amazing how quickly things go. And the nice thing is, hold on to that. And the nice thing is the weather is phenomenal. It's warm enough. It's certainly hot enough to be able to... Oh no! Radek dropped the phone. Did we break the charger or the phone?
That's okay. No, it's good. It's good. That's supposed to withstand.
You hope.
Some. Yeah.
Hey, it's live radio. Stuff like this happens. So, hi, Barbara. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank
okay,
you.
Wonderful. And when you talk into the microphone, you want to put it just bouncing off your chin, something like that. That's great. You're you're an influential member for the Institute for Women of Aviation Worldwide, right?
Yes. Yeah, I've been involved for a number of years.
Yeah, where are you based out of?
I'm in Hollywood, Florida.
And you came in today in your own plane?
I did. For the very first time, I'm
not worthy. I'm not worthy. How many people? There's quite a few. What did I hear? How many thousand people fly into Sun and Fun? Quite a few, but not as many as would like.
Right.
Part of me wanted to come down, and if I was to try to bring my Cherokee down from Boston in the snowstorm that Radek and I flew out of, it wasn't going to happen. But down here in Florida, you have more opportunities. And you came in with your flight instructor.
Yes,
Do you trust him?
Yes.
Oh, good. That's good. And he brought you in because you're working on your instrument?
I am, yeah. We did 30 minutes of hood time.
Hood time.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good for you. Well, welcome aboard. This is Steve Thorne from Flight Chops. Have you seen Flight Chops on YouTube before?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, you will. And Chris Palmer
He's the president and executive of his life, and he does a very good job with that. And Radek Vizikowski, the premier poobah, the grand poobah of the IMC Club. And so welcome aboard. Steve, I want to pick up with your programs. How is it that you decided to show all of your flaws to the millions, the bazillions of people, and want this here?
Okay. So at the end of the day, really it came down to being a private pilot and just trying to get better and share mistakes and learn and improve. Along the way, I saw a lot of stuff on the internet that was lacking any kind of context. A lot of people had videos that were out there that were either poor quality or showed something that was illustrating, maybe it looked instructional, but it wasn't. And to me, that's problematic to see something online that's claiming to be instructional when it's not. And I'm not an instructor, but just being a private pilot trying to sort of continuously get better. Chris had a video that went viral in something that really interested me, which was that
him?
This guy right here, Chris Palmer from Angle of Attack. It showed a pretty nasty, scary situation unfolding, and it was something you could really all learn from.
Wait, is that the one with the approaching aircraft coming in when you were
No. That's a new one. This is almost 2 years old, this one. It's on my channel. It's had 1 million views. What I did with it was I added some context to sort of help explain it, just to kind of get, because the problem is that people put things on the internet when they don't edit and they don't have context, and then it can look like, what is that? And then everyone puts their opinion in, and it's a big debate and an argument, and then you end up with this sort of lacking of value. If you see something that you can't get something out of because you don't have the context, to me that was problematic. So this video that we kind of collaborated on helped add some context to something that is a really quick mistake or something you find yourself in with a takeoff that didn't go well. It can suddenly go really badly really quickly, and it's very dramatic footage that Chris had. And that was one of the early videos that sort of leveraged part of what I'm doing now, which is, so the one you just brought up is a recent one of a similar thing. Someone sharing a really scary moment and adding context. So I don't know if you want to expand on your experience
Chris,
of that.
what did happen?
Okay, so this happened in 2010. I was in Washington in a turbo-normalized Bonanza G36. I was about half fuel, half passengers, and landed in a small strip. Everything was normal. Headwind, all the normal stuff. Did the procedure how I was taught to do the procedure, but some things went wrong. So what ended up happening is right around rotation, the aircraft started to mush, and I couldn't get the climb out of it. I was right at VX. I couldn't go anymore, but there were these trees coming up in front of me.
Oh, right. You told me about this, yeah.
So about 75-foot tall trees were right in front of me.
Aren't they supposed to be 50-foot engineered?
Yeah, I was going to say,
but it's a little further off
trees
the
in
runway.
Aviation
Yeah.
are 50-foot obstacles.
Now, how do trees jump all of a sudden jump in front of you?
No,
That's my
yeah.
question.
So they didn't jump in front of me, right? Like, but they were there. I knew they were there. I was doing the procedure to avoid them, right? So
rascals.
It's pretty interesting because when you see the video, and you've just got to see the video, search "scariest takeoff ever" on Google. It's going to be the top video that comes up. Over 800,000 views as of this morning. So what ended up happening is I instinctively just touched a little bit to the left, and I passed through some trees. There were trees on my left and right, and I barely made it out. You know, it shouldn't have been that scary. It should have been a situation that could have been handled through training.
And we're going to get back to that in just a moment. We're going to pay attention to the Star-Spangled Banner.
Alrighty.
It's live. Well, the entire campus of Sun and Fun stops and takes a break while the national anthem was sang. And I don't know if it's one of the Golden Knights. We have Kirby Chambliss up there circling around parachutist who's coming in. And I know it's quite distracting to have to pull you out of the middle of that incredible story. But now I want to get back grounded to where you were. So the point is, there you were, Rascal Trees. Pick it up where you left off.
Yeah, so if you watch the video, there are taller trees right down the center line. And I instinctively didn't even think about it. I didn't even know about it until I rewatched the video later, that I instinctively bumped left a couple degrees and went through some trees. So Steve at Flight Chops did a great job of taking that video and breaking it down, talking to me about the situation, what I had experienced, what the facts were about that situation, and use it as a great learning experience for others.
Okay, let's stop there. What type of aircraft was it?
A G36 Bonanza turbo normalized.
Where were you?
I was at Concrete, Washington.
Altitude?
I think what's the altitude there?
Well, I think the point that I want to get into at this point is that breaking down the details of that one aren't what I was trying to do with that video. What I was trying to do with that video was get into the idea that personal minimums are what matter. So if you run the numbers and you get into a situation where the book says, I can do this takeoff, but there's a 10% margin, that's not cool. So I use that example to say, I don't know the details of that one. I don't need to know the details of that one. What I saw was scary, and he did his numbers, and it did say he could do it, but some things went wrong, whether it was slight wind gust changes, poor execution, incorrect procedure. It doesn't really matter what happened. The result was they almost went into the trees. And what I learned from watching that was, if I ever find myself in a situation where my calculations say, I decided I'm making a 50% buffer on my performance calculations. After seeing that video, I'm going to formally do it. So when I do my calculations, if it says 40% is my buffer on that one, I'll wait until it's colder in the evening or something. I won't go. I'll wait till the density altitude's a little better. I don't know. I'll wait till a headwind is a little stronger, whatever. Or I'll get the airplane lighter. I don't know. But that inspired me to talk about personal minimums. I think that's what I try to do. Instead of getting super specific about something, it's more about the general learning opportunities that you can find from a given situation. So that's kind of what I feel like is the value of that one. There's no point in hashing out the details of it. It's more about the general learning moment is look at your personal minimums and make sure you have them. You should have personal SOPs.
No, I appreciate it, by the way. I just
one
go
quick
ahead,
question. So when you produce your videos, are you looking for other people's experiences, or you just on occasion, but mainly you produce based on your own experiences?
Yeah, I think I've landed on a cool formula, which is that I can do any of that. I'm not beholden to only produce stuff that's my experiences. I'm kind of a conduit that people send me stuff all the time, like what Chris sent. It's often really scary. It often shows like really crazy learning moments. And sometimes what amazes me is that people are like, I don't want to share this, but I want you to see it because I like your YouTube channel. It's like, well, what can I do? What's the point of me sharing? Like, have you had anything like that happen where people have talked to you about an experience that you thought, don't tell anybody? You sit down with your friend who's a pilot and they're like, this happened, but I don't want to talk about it to anyone else because I might get in trouble. Or it's like, well, what good is that? Like, you should share that, learn from it. Let's find a way to get something out of it. Like, you've had scary experiences, right? Or one or two. Everyone has, I think.
Yeah, but I think one thing about becoming a pilot or being a pilot is learning to manage your fears. But then learn from them.
Yes.
And I had the honor of flying across the English Channel with Women of Aviation Worldwide Week on the 100th anniversary since Harriet Quimby, who was America's first licensed woman pilot.
The English Channel?
The English Channel. And I designed a replica plum-colored satin flying outfit. And we did it in 2012 on the 100th anniversary.
That's incredible.
And Harriet Quimby did it April 15th, April 16th, 1912. And she didn't get much publicity about it because the Titanic had sank the night before. And so that item got lost.
You never follow babies, animals, and sinking Titanics.
Right. It's very hard. Bad news day.
Yeah.
But still.
Page 2.
It didn't happen. As though it didn't happen. So a group of us, American, British, French, and Canadian women pilots, we went and celebrated that event. But I remember, but I didn't. The only thing is always look at weather. I think it's important to study weather. I was hoping to fly here yesterday, but I understand the weather was in the morning was it looked like like a squall came through, and so that's why I had to wait and come today.
Did you fly a seaplane across the channel?
No, I flew a Cessna 172, the F model, the same model that I own, but it was British-owned. And also had to go with the flight instructor because being a British-owned aircraft and not having a British pilot's license, but still it was great opportunity. We had to wait on good weather to do the flight.
No, that's incredible. I doubt that very many people listening to this program or very many people on this campus can say that they've done something like that. And the reason why, by the way, that I bring up asking whether it was a seaplane, because we have joined with us now is Bob Tweedy from the city of Tavares. I actually met you last year, came by, and I'm enamored with float planes, with seaplanes. And somebody told me about this town in Florida that was all about seaplanes. And I'll begin with the end. The playground has this gigantic, is it a Pilates or what is it? It's this gigantic jungle gym with the spinner prop. It spits out water in this. What a fantastic place.
It is, Howie, and it's great to see you again. Thanks. Wonderful. It seems like, wow, a year went by fast since we last saw each other. But, that's
I lost 20 pounds since
I
saw No, that's not true.
It's sort of the centerpiece of our waterfront is the children's aviation themed splash park that's got the largest feature it's a replica of a Twin Otter on floats. And it's really visible from all over our downtown waterfront park, Wooten Park, where our seaplane base is located. And it's really cool. It is part of what we call our niche and wow marketing effort, which our city is really wrapped around the brand America's Seaplane City.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have to understand when you normally go to any normal downtown Main Street, you got your pharmacy and the gas station, a hotel or two, but then you don't have the line of float planes and the ramps with the planes on them. And you've really taken full advantage of the fact you've got a phenomenal lake. What's the lake? Is it?
It's Lake Dora, and actually our city sits. It's almost an island in itself. It's really, I guess you'd call it a peninsula that sits in the middle of three large lakes. Lake Dora is where our seaplane base is located on the south side of the city, and then we're bordered to the north by Lake Eustis, and then to the southwest by Lake Harris, all part of the Harris Lake chain of lakes connected to Lake Apopka. We're in Lake County, so there is water all around us, and it was a natural fit.
Any of you guys fly a float plane? Any of you? You have. What was your experience?
So I live in Alaska. It's a little different than flying a float plane down here, but...
Okay, now wait a minute.
We don't have any mountains.
Yeah, right.
What? No. I totally respect you guys. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it is a little different. It's a little wild. We don't have the nicest airplanes. They're all a little rickety, but it's a blast. I tell people that flying a float plane, you're flying the entire time from the second you push back from the dock, and it is a blast. There's nothing like float flying.
Well, I got my first hour wet last year over at my God, right
Jack
down
Brown's.
Jack Brown's.
In Winter
I went for an hour, and getting up on step and making the turning ascent, fantastic. I get it. I got it. I loved it. I mean, I got it completely. It was just natural for me, and I can't wait to finish. I didn't have enough time to get my endorsement, but I got the hour, and that was phenomenal. And so you have all sorts of events. You really make the best out of it.
We do. We have a wonderful waterfront. The city was wise to center its development on the valuable resource that is its waterfront. We have a large park with a marina, seaplane base, seaplane ramp, and we do a lot of different really neat events, about 20 of them throughout the year. Some are hosted by the city, others are hosted by outside organizations, everything from antique boat festivals to our upcoming Planes, Trains, and Barbecue, which is the 30th of April And we're
I was there
combining
for
that.
the antique boat thing, all the steam engine boats.
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
awesome.
just classic boats. We also have a vintage steam train that is runs through our city. We have a historic replica of our antique train depot that's been replicated adjacent to the Seaplane Basin Park, and we got the oldest operating wood-fired steam engine train in the country. It runs back and forth to Mount Dora, which is a neighboring city, and it's really a neat combination of
It sounds
assets.
great. Do you offer some sort of perk or discount, or if you want to move into your town and you own a float plane and you want to tie it down? How do you tie down? How do you do that? Do you weigh anchor? What do you do?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways, and you being from Alaska or having a seaplane experience can probably chime in on it. Most of the aircraft, the float planes we get in there are transient. We do have a base operated Jones Brothers Seaplanes. Has a commercial operation there. They have two float
I met the
planes.
guys there.
Yeah,
awesome
they do
guys.
instruction, charter, scenic rides, and they tie down on the shoreline with anchors that are like tie downs, and then the tail.
No, but they throw the anchor on the land.
No, actually, they have some anchors in the water with ropes that go up to the wing tie downs. They tail it in, and then the tail has got an anchor sort of device screwed into the ground.
Oh, that's what I
That's
saw.
how they tie it. But the majority of the float plane owners usually either have them in their if they have a lakeside or waterside property, they're in their backyard on a dock or on a lift or something, or at an airport. And probably 60% of them are amphibious, so they're at an airport.
So you're making
in a
yourself
hangar.
as much a destination.
It's a destination,
as well as an environment.
Right.
Well, that's wonderful. Steve, no float time? No float time experience?
I'm definitely going to be getting a float rating. Just haven't gotten around to it yet. Yeah,
Oh, grab the mic.
Trying to get it done in Alaska. That'd be a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
we want them to come up to where I live and get it done there.
Oh, you should go get Ariel Chuito to go up there and show you the ropes.
Yeah,
Actually, Ariel should be here tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
But that's awesome. You've flown in some pretty incredible aircraft. What are the how many hours do you have, and which aircraft have you flown in, Steve?
My total time?
Sure.
Honestly, I don't have a lot of total time. I'm a weekend warrior that's been licensed for 20 years, and I'm probably looking at 400 hours.
Cool.
It's just one of those things, right?
By the way, that's even cooler. It's even cooler because you're not that advanced, but you took a break now.
I took a 4-year break, yeah.
And like anybody who's had what's an unrequited love or something taken away from you, when it's brought back, you're like so much more of the vitality behind your interests, which is what happened to me. Obviously, it's with you. How many different aircraft? What kind of
I
aircraft
don't
did
even
you
know.
fly?
I haven't really counted recently. I've had a lot in the last few years. So
Any
that's been fun.
real fun one?
Well, the Stearman has been my favorite airplane to get checked out on.
Barbara, only the Cessna? What else have you flown?
Mainly the Cessna 152, but thinking about scary circumstances.
Yes.
I was in a Beech 18, and I remember we were in instrument conditions coming into land at BWI, Baltimore International.
Tiny little grass strip.
And
outside
tiny.
Baltimore.
Yeah,
Just a little
and
place.
basically they had to close down the airport because
For you? Because you were coming?
I wasn't. I was at the time. I was just a passenger, and I should have been scared, but I wasn't. And actually, it was very interesting to be able to sit behind. I was actually standing up to watch how we came in, and all the instruments. Well, most of the instruments had failed on the airplane.
Did you say you were standing up?
Standing up
To
actually,
watch?
to watch how we popped down through the clouds, and the air traffic controllers only talk you down to like 700 feet, and then you're on your own.
Then you have to talk
any
yourself
runway,
down?
Land any runway, any direction. And then we just popped down, and the pilot made a perfect landing. But then the FAA took his license. And what had happened, a snowplow had hit the Beech 18. We didn't even know that, and we discovered that only after the flight. In the meantime, he had to go back and get his instrument rating. But he, perfect landing, nobody heard at all. But somehow
Did he
that
get his
happened
ticket back?
He got his tickets back,
Oh,
but he had to
good.
go through like SimCom and do
Oh,
more
okay.
flight review.
Well, we got about
But,
4 minutes left.
That happens, though. I mean, that can happen.
We got about 4 minutes left in the program. So you wanted to add something, Chris?
No, not really. I appreciate being here with you guys and hearing these experiences.
No, we don't.
I appreciate the work that Steve's doing and the work that IMC Clubs is doing, and we're all aviators. We have a story. Everyone has a story, and I really like when those are shared from older generations to the younger generations, and we need to continue to do that.
I appreciate that very much. Just one last thing. Go ahead, Barbara.
Yes, I'd just like to point out that Women of Aviation Worldwide Week is a global organization. Now, this year, 44,000 people participated during the week of March 8th, which is which was the 106th anniversary since the first woman in the world, the Baroness Ramon de la Rouche, got a pilot's license, and it enhanced the abilities of women and girls to learn about aerospace and to increase gender equality in the industry.
And we did it 240 facilities in 4 continents.
And 4 continents, and
that's a big deal.
And this year we had a Pink Paper Airplane Day.
Pink Paper Airplane Challenge, yes.
Challenge for a Guinness World Record, and more than 11,000 airplanes were built in a 15-minute period.
I love the video of Lockheed Martin. The technicians in Lockheed Martin are all folding pink paper airplanes, and I think they broke the record, a few thousand in a minute. It was really dramatic. Well, really, I can't thank you enough, Steve Thorne from Flight Shops. Personally, appreciate what you've done. It's been a learning experience from the start.
Cool, yeah, thanks a lot for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. Chris, thank you for making sure you got here on time. Barbara, I truly appreciate the fact that you stopped by, and it's great what you do to help inspire young women to look to aerospace technology. The more the merrier.
Yes.
And Bob Chwitty, thank you from the city of Tavares.
Thank you,
for creating a truly enjoyable, clean and wonderful environment. I really loved visiting, and I hope to visit again soon. You got any last parting shots you want to?
Just like to invite pilots to come out and visit our seaplane. Any seaplane aviators out there, come visit us at FA1. Also, our upcoming planes, trains, and barbecue and seaplane fly-in weekend. We call it Seaplane-a-Palooza, the weekend of April 30th, May 1st. Lots of fun activities, air shows, barbecue competition, and seaplane fly-in and seaplane competitions. Bomb drop.
We can find you on the web at
www.tavares.org.
Spell that for me.
TAVARES.org.
All right, hand it over to Steve, please. Steve, where can we find you on the web?
You can find me at flightshops.com.
How do you spell that?
Flight, one word, chops.com. So
Excellent.
These crazy mustache.
So, Chris, where can we see that wild video of yours?
Google Scariest Takeoff Ever. I also have a podcast, aviatorcast.com. You can check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for reminding us. Radek, any parting shots?
First of all, thank you for not calling me Rat today. I really appreciate it. I will never forget that one.
I had nothing to do with that. He's quoting in a magazine. He prefers to go by Red. No, I never said that.
And it's not true.
It's
I don't
not
know
true.
Where they got it from.
Well, on behalf of Radek Vizikowski, John Roberts, and the rest of the IMC Club Golden Microphone crew, this is Howie at Sun and Fun 2016. I wish you strong sun in your face and the wind on your butt. You guys fly safe. See you next time.
Not necessarily reflect the views of the IMC Club or IMC Club International.
Brussels National Departure Quebec 0954. Runway 25 right for departure. Taxiway Echo 512.
See, this takes so much energy, guys. All right. JetBlue 1012, Lieutenant November, join Alpha and contact Ronald. Good afternoon. Clear to land. My 3354. Good evening. You guys should come up here one day. You'd enjoy it. You'd enjoy the show. Clear to land, 33 right. Thank you very much.